Today we're covering a 2020 romantic drama film called 365 Days. The movie flips off on a coastal island where a business deal is going on between two groups on a rooftop. An elder man, who's the leader of a Sicilian mafia gang, refuses to accept the deal because the other group proposes inappropriate matters. The old man gets up and leaves his associate to deal with them. He then walks over to the other side where his son, Massimo, is using his binoculars to look at a beautiful girl. The father takes the binoculars and glances at the woman. He then advises his son to take responsibility for the family. All of a sudden, his words are interrupted as they are targeted by a rival group. His father dies instantly while Massimo cries for help and later faints out. After being targeted, the people on the rooftop disperse and the scene fades out. 5 years later, we see Massimo in a meeting, representing his family and dealing in the recovery of his assets. The proposition refuses to attend to him, so he uses his influence and threatens the respective party to make sure that he gets the money. On the other hand, the girl named Laura performs her job as the sales director and accomplishes herself in defending her valid points in front of a company panel. After both of them are done with their jobs, they drive their way back home. Laura starts exciting and recording herself. Meanwhile, Massimo gets a video message from his partner Anna, demanding pleasure. Both of them gradually put their phones back and continue their drive. Upon returning home, Laura walks over to her boyfriend and tries to get close to him. She begins to kiss him, but he pushes her away and apologizes to her for not being available. Laura gets frustrated and walks away into her room. On the other hand, Massimo is in his private jet with his associates Mario and Domenico. As Mario informs him that their drugs have been intercepted, Massimo gets furious and walks to the back and closes the curtains, while the air hostess is still there. On the other side, Laura pulls out the toys to enjoy herself. As Massimo makes the girl to lower on her knees, Laura begins to enjoy herself as well. Both the characters feel the bliss at the same time, and the scene fades out with the landing of the plane. Up next, we see that Laura is at a party with her boyfriend Martin and his other friends. She begins to feel awkward as all the others are talking. Martin then gets up and urges everyone to sing happy birthday for Laura, which embarrasses her and she walks away furiously. As she strolls across the dimly lit pathways, she suddenly turns around to face Massimo. Upon that, he asks, "Are you lost, baby girl?" She doesn't utter a word and walks away silently. The next day, she's lying down by the pool and discussing her relationship with her friend when Martin arrives there. He begins to annoy her with the talks and they start an argument. To please her, he pulls out a vacation card, but Laura simply pushes him into the pool and walks away angrily. In pure frustration, she spends the rest of the day alone, and as the night arrives, she walks through the dark streets of Sicily all by herself. As she passes one alley, two guys call her out, so she quickly walks to the other side. Nevertheless, she gets abducted in that darkness. Upon waking up, she finds herself in a massive bedroom. She becomes really confused as she has nowhere to go and the door seems locked. After some time has passed, someone opens the lock from outside and leaves. Laura immediately rushes out of the room and runs down the stairs to arrive in an open living space. As she stands in the middle of the room, her expressions reveal extreme astonishment as she stares at a huge portrait of her hanging on the wall. Just then, Massimo appears behind her and asks if she's lost. Upon turning back, Laura instantly faints. As she regains consciousness, Massimo puts an ice cube in her mouth, but she spits it out and lashes on Massimo. In response, he thrusts her down onto the sofa and offers her a drink. As she doesn't accept it, Massimo gives her an explanation about why she is here. He states that he saw her face 5 years ago when his father died. Since then, he's been looking for her all around the world, until one day he saw her at the airport. Laura doesn't believe his story and states that she has a boyfriend and a life. Upon that, Massimo pulls out some pictures of Martin with another girl. Upon looking at them, Laura begins to leave, so Massimo pushes her back into the sofa and states that he will not do anything without her consent. Moreover, he threatens her that he doesn't tolerate disobedience. He then states that she has 365 days. In this time, he will do everything to make her fall in love with him. Upon hearing that, Laura dashes towards the exit once again, so Massimo grips her and pushes her into the pillar. As he holds her there, Mario suddenly arrives in the room and states that the parcel is here. Laura is then taken away by Domenico while Massimo walks outside to deal with business. He goes down into the dungeons where a man is tied to the stone. Massimo threatens to erase his existence as the man betrayed and diminished the family's name. On the other hand, Laura gets up from the shower and runs outside into the yard where she accidentally watches the assassination of the culprit. Upon watching that, she faints again. The following morning, she wakes up in a black nightie and watches Massimo observing her. He states that she must have not seen that and then gives an explanation for the assassination. In the meantime, Laura demands her phone and laptop, but Massimo doesn't allow it. He orders her to get ready for shopping, upon which she retaliates and hits him. Their aggression fuels up and she slaps Massimo as he pushes her down. Nevertheless, he leaves her and asks her to get dressed. Later, she walks into the massive yard where she feasts on a splendid breakfast. After that, Massimo takes her with him in the car on a drive. Later, they go to various fashion outlets and Laura buys dozens of expensive dresses and shoes which Massimo's guards struggle with. Upon going to a lingerie shop, Laura tries on an attractive dress and suddenly Massimo walks in. She tries to push him out, but he grabs her by the throat and states that he can watch it whenever he wants. Upon that, she becomes furious and leaves in anguish. She runs away and tries to talk to policemen for help, but Massimo arrives there as well and the policemen leave. Massimo then advises her to give in and not resist it anymore. Laura finally gives in and asks politely for her laptop, phone and demands some normal food. Upon returning home, she discovers the black lingerie. For the night, Laura dolls up and walks to the pool area where a splendid dinner table is set. As soon as she gets seated, she orders the dumplings and jokes about it. As the chef leaves, she inquires with him about his profession. Massimo answers that he owns some companies, hotels, clubs, and restaurants. After that, he demands a little help from Laura. He walks over to her side and asks her to help him become gentle with her. Their dinner ends with that soft note, and as soon as Laura returns to her room, she finds the laptop and the phone placed on the bed. Later that night, Massimo walks into her room and watches her sleeping soundly. The next morning, Laura wakes up to find him right next to her in the bed. She almost touches his skin but suddenly pulls back and walks into the shower. As she bathes, Massimo wakes up and also walks into the shower beside her. As the water drips down on him, Laura begins to stare at him. She stands hypnotized under the shower while staring at him. So, Massimo walks over to her and she begins to touch him. But she leaves midway and turns around. Massimo suddenly grabs her by the neck and asks her not to play with him. Laura stands unfazed, so he takes her to the airstrip and gets her strapped into the seat of his private jet. As she sits motionless in the seat, he begins to make her excited. Just as she begins to enjoy it, Massimo pulls away and walks to the front. As the plane lands, Laura gets out in frustration. Their journey takes them to Rome, where Massimo meets with his cousin. Meanwhile, Laura eats ice cream and begins to tempt the boys. Massimo asks her to stop it, so she leaves and walks over to the water fountain. Later on, we see Laura returning to the suite completely wet, while Massimo accompanies her. She takes a bath and later walks into Massimo's bedroom. There, she sees a huge picture of him with a lion and talks about it. Afterward, she sits on the sofa and Massimo stands before her. He asks her to do what he wants the most, but she refuses and walks away. In order to control her, Massimo ties her to the bed and calls a girl to give him a demonstration of what he wants. As the girl performs her task, Laura watches it all and gets excited by it. As Massimo is done with the girl, he moves towards Laura, but he doesn't make an attempt on her. In the midway, he opens her restraints and orders her to get ready for the club. Later on, Laura dolls up lavishly and wears a short dress. Wearing that sparkle, she enters the club with Domenico and walks over to meet Massimo. He immediately takes her outside and scolds her for wearing a short dress, but she doesn't care about it and begins to enjoy herself. She plays around with other guys to make Massimo jealous, which turns into a grave situation as Massimo's friend tries to disgrace her. Massimo gets aggressive on this and the party is diminished. After the party, Laura sits melancholy in the yacht while Massimo and Mario argue over the lost business and disrupted relations at the club. Laura intervenes and apologizes for her stupidity. Massimo lashes out at her, which turns into an argument. Laura walks away angrily to the front side of the yacht, from where she accidentally tips over and falls into the deep waters. Massimo dives after her and saves her life. Following the incident, she wakes up in bed and finds him by her side. He politely asks her why she is so disobedient. With that, he lovingly sits by her side and caresses her cheek. He then tries to get up, but she pulls him back and slowly reaches towards him. She finally agreed with his long-awaited desire. That's where they break every limit passionately. After their pleasure trip, Massimo tells her that they have to go to a ball. The preparations immediately start and Laura goes to makeup and shopping again. At night, they arrive at the ball where the couple dances. After the dance, Anna arrives there and states that Massimo is her first and last lover. She then whispers to him that she's going to finish Laura off. Upon knowing that, Laura immediately decides to leave the event. That night, Massimo gets close to her once again and they enjoy it passionately. After it all ends, Massimo tells her to go to Poland in order to visit her family. Laura is extremely taken aback by the sudden separation, but nevertheless, she drives with Domenico the next day. During the ride, he suddenly gets an urgent call and he immediately drives away in the other vehicle without telling Laura about anything. In the meantime, Laura flies to Poland and goes to her best friend Olga. They both spend time together and talk about all the events in Laura's life. Afterward, they get a wonderful spa treatment and Olga takes her to the nightclub. As they enjoy the drinks, Olga walks away with another guy and Laura accidentally crosses paths with Martin. He tries to justify himself and begs Laura to come back. Nonetheless, their argument heats up and Martin follows her to the apartment where Massimo is already waiting. One look at him, and Martin leaves. Meanwhile, Laura walks over to Massimo and gets all angry with him upon leaving so suddenly. But her anger soon turns into pleasure as they both spend a good time together. During their procession, Laura spots some marks on Massimo's chest. Upon that, tears spring up in her eyes and she states that she doesn't need 365 days. She already loves him. Massimo takes a sigh of relief and excitedly makes Laura say it one more time. The following morning, Massimo proposes to Laura for a wedding, and to her surprise, she finds a ring already slid in her finger. She says yes to him and then the shopping begins. Laura tries on various dresses and buys the stuff. Later, both of them go to a wedding where Massimo meets with her parents. Upon their inquiry, Massimo tells them that he's a gangster and he has all the wrong intentions with their daughter. The parents take it in a light way and life goes on for both of them. Up next, we see Laura coming for breakfast and sitting by the pool with Massimo and Mario. She then takes the permission to allow Olga to come to the wedding. Massimo agrees and Mario gets up to prepare for her arrival. The next scene pops up and we see Olga excitedly coming to meet Laura. They both go to the bridal store to try out the dress. As Laura gets prepared, Olga tempts Domenico and plays with him. As soon as Laura emerges, everyone's mouths drop open as she looks mind-blowingly gorgeous. Both the friends look at each other with tears of happiness and begin to leave. On their way back, Laura gets on call with Massimo. In the meantime, Mario gets a confidential call that they are going to finish Laura off. He gets extremely conscious and tries to call Massimo and Laura. Unfortunately, both of them are busy, therefore he urges the driver to rush towards the house. As they talk, Mario makes it to the house and dashes towards the pool to talk to Massimo. In the meantime, Laura's car enters a tunnel, but doesn't emerge from the other side. Laura's call cuts off with Massimo and he turns around to see Mario standing helplessly in front of him. In the sheer moments of stress and depression, Massimo drops to his knees and flashbacks of Laura's face emerge in front of him. With that severe grief, he begins to cry and the film comes to an end.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.